Hello, folks. Let's take a look at some monster magazines. Now, you say to yourself, that does not look like a monster magazine. That is actually Jim Warren's stab at a Playboy knockoff from 1957. It's called After Hours. That's the fourth and last issue. But the reason that's important is because it contains an article by a guy named Forrest Ackerman called Confession of a Science Fiction Addict. And that was the springboard for Famous Monsters of Filmland, which is probably the most successful magazine of all time, monster magazine of all time. I mean, as far as just sitting down to read a monster magazine, I had rather read A Castle of Frankenstein or A Monster Times or some others, but for all of Forey's puns and other things, uh, this magazine that I'm going to cover here, the first few issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland, was groundbreaking, and it's the most important monster magazine in the history of them. That's what was really the catalyst for the whole monster magazine movement in the 60s and 70s, up through the 80s, really, early 80s. And then it had a resurgence in the 90s, and it's still going. I mean, there's still some monster magazines being made. Not popular like they used to be, but anyway, let's get to this. This After Hours number 4 came out in 1957, and no doubt what spurred Jim Warren to have that article in there by Ackerman was the popularity of the shock theater package on television. You know, kids were going crazy for those showings of the old Universal horror movies. And all across the country, horror hosts sprang up. You know, your local weatherman might put on a cape and a fake Lugosi accent or whatever. But whatever, you know, we had like dozens and dozens of horror hosts, and it was a huge thing in pop culture. And so, this article showed up in this magazine, and it was so popular that Jim Warren decided to try to make a whole magazine devoted to monsters. And by the way, this is a low grade copy, but finding any copy of this thing is a big deal. I bought this copy from Greg Bazaz. He used to do the Graveyard Examiner in FM for a while, and he was selling. I gave like $20 for this thing, and you just can't find them in any grade. So I was glad to get it. All right, here's FM number 1. This was originally not, wasn't even intended to be a series. It's just kind of a one shot, really. And you notice it's shorter than most magazines. The number 2, see how much taller that is in the bag and board there, Mylar? And that's not cut off or anything. I examined that closely when at first I thought, man, what is it? I've given a sizable sum of money for this, and it's trimmed. No, it's not trimmed. They came that way. And this is actually a pretty decent copy. It's missing a little bit of corner piece there, and it's got a minor crease up there, but the spine is the big deal on these things, and that's got a solid spine. And that cover, this came out, actually, these dates I'm going to give you, these publication dates for these issues, are, what's recorded on the indicia. They actually came out 2 or 3 months prior to that. So this is dated February 1958. So it came out sometime in the winter, probably in December or so of 57, actually. And that cover is James Warren in a Frankenstein mask. And the lady that he's posing with there is named Marion Moore. And I'm not going to get into the interiors because then this video will last forever. That's number 2. That is dated September 1958. Here again we have James Warren in like a weird werewolf type mask with horns, Looks more like a demon, but and this is when it actually became a series, you know. Number 3, from April 1959. You can tell these things are really spaced out. The publishing was very regular to start with. That cover is Jim Warren art, of course, of the Phantom. And that's pretty good. This is one of the more scarce issues, number 4. That is dated August 1959. And, you know, it's a pretty good copy. It's solid. It's got the solid spine. Probably very good. It's not bad. I mean, you're not going to find these in high grade. All of these issues I'm going to show you, they range from low to mid. And, well, a couple of the later ones might be considered very fine, but these are so hard to find in high grade, and I don't know what you'd have to pay for them in high grade, but usually the spines are split on these things all the way down, which technically puts them like a, what, fair or whatever. But anyway, this one's got a good spine. This cover is by Albert Noetzel, and looks like one of the aliens from War of the Worlds there. That's a tough issue to find, and it's expensive. This is even tougher. This is a variant, actually a variant of that. It's got the Ghoul's Eye sticker. And this is lower grade, but finding any copy of one with the Ghoul's Eye sticker, which is from the Willow Grove, Pennsylvania amusement park. It's like a roller coaster, I think. It was like an advertisement for that, and just a few of these got out with that sticker. And I bought this from the Jerry Weist estate a few years ago, and that, I think it was only like around $100, which is incredibly cheap for something that significant and that scarce. Here's number 5, dated November 1959, cover by Albert Noetzel. And of course, got Lugosi there. And that's also got a pence sticker. So this was actually sold in the UK. And, you know, this is a pretty nice copy here. This may be bordering on fine, aside from the pence stamp, or however you want to let that affect the grade. Here's another tough one to find. This is number 6, the King Kong issue. And that cover is by Albert Noetzel as well. And that's an expensive issue. Some of these are just more scarce than others. I'm not sure exactly if there's a real scarcity there, or if they're if it's just like the demand scarce on some of them. I don't know, but some of them are a lot more expensive. I know that. Number 4 and 6 are expensive. Number 3 is pretty expensive too. And of course, number 1. That nowadays we're living in the age of so many collectors just wanting to buy keys, you know, key issue. Number 1 is it. If you want to say you've got the Famous Monsters issue, then you buy number 1. I'm a run collector, man. Anyway, this is number 7. From June 1960, cover by Albert Noetzel, and that is Zachary, the horror host. The number 1 horror host in history. A TV horror host, anyway. This is number 8. Oh, and there are a couple of variants of that number 7. I don't have those. Some of the blurbs on the cover are a little bit different on the other 2 variants, but I just have the 1 there. This is number 8. This is dated September 1960, and cover is by Albert Noetzel. Here's the first Go-Go's. This is number 9, November 1960. I'm sorry. Yeah, November 1960. Yeah, this cover is by by Basil Gogos. The first one he did for Famous Monsters. He's like the cover illustrator for Famous Monsters because of the quality of his work. Of course, that's Vincent Price from House of Usher. And we got number 10, dated January 1961. That cover is by Basil Gogos. And that's Phantom of the Opera there. Claude Rains. I love this cover here of Gorgo. This is number 11 from April 1961. And, you know, it's just beautiful. It's by Basil Gogos. Beautiful Gorgo cover. It's also got a Pence stamp. Sold in the UK. Here's another great one. This is number 12. Of course, this is dated June 1961. This is the Hammer Werewolf from Curse of the Werewolf. It says Universal International's Curse of the Werewolf. They distributed it, but it's a Hammer production. And you know, there's just beautiful Basil Gogos cover, just gorgeous. That color, that yellow, really makes it pop right off the cover there. And we have August 1961. Trying to adjust the camera here. Center it a little bit better. I went with a different lighting so as to defeat that glare. I think everything shows up a little better now. So this is Famous Monsters of Filmland number 13, dated August 1961, cover by Basil Gogos. And of course, that's stylized Frankenstein monster. It almost looks like from The Evil of Frankenstein, but that came later, so couldn't be from that. This is FM number 14, dated October 61, cover by Basil Gogos. And of course, the great Vincent Price from The Pit and the Pendulum. Beautiful. And number 15. This is a great Zachary cover here by Basil Gogos, dated January 1962. Somebody did their arithmetic on there. Oh boy, and wrote their name. Somebody named Arthur? I don't know. Too bad. But anyway, I mean, it's not a high-grade copy, and that writing really doesn't hurt the grade a whole lot, to be honest. And the main thing for me, I'm not a high-grade collector, really. I just want, you know, a complete copy that looks pretty good, you know, presents nicely, and I'm happy with it, man. I'm not going to split hairs about whether it's a 9.4 or a 9.8. It don't matter to me. Anyway, great Basil Gogos cover of John Zachary. And number 16 from March of 1962. This is another great Basil Gogos cover of the Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney the Senior. Another great one. And number 17. This is from May 1962. This is another Basil Gogos cover. Elsa Lanchester from The Bride, of course. And number 18. From July 1962. Another great Basil Gogos cover. Now this one a lot of people might not recognize. This is actually a guy named Bernard Jukes, and he played Renfield on the stage production of Dracula. So Bernard Jukes, and that is number 18 from July of 1962. Here's number 19. This is a big square bound issue from September of 1962. Another great Basil Gogos cover, Tales of Terror. Of course, you've got Peter Lorre there, you've got Basil Rathbone, and you've got Vincent Price. Can't get much better than that. That's a great issue. And number 20, from November of 1962, cover by Basil Gogos, Lon Chaney, London After Midnight. The Lost Film. But that is a beautiful cover. Okay, this is number 21, February 1963. This cover is actually a still from Bride of Frankenstein, and it's colorized by Basil Gogos. And here is number 22. This is dated April 1963. And this is a still from Dracula, colorized by Basil Gogos. Now we're getting back into the paintings. Number 23, dated June 1963. This cover is by Basil Gogos, and of course this is from War of the Colossal Beast. Fun 50s sci-fi, giant monster flick. And number 24, dated August 1963. Cover by Basil Gogos of Werewolf of London. Nice. And number 25, dated October 1963. These are stills from King Kong. You know, it's a cool issue, but it's kind of a letdown after all those great covers by Gogos that we saw earlier. Still, you know, it's a big square-bound issue with a lot of great content. And number 26, dated January 1964. The cover is actually uncredited. I couldn't find who did that, really. This is from the Outer Limits episode, The Architects of Fear. That's the manufactured alien after, you know, the scientists that make things happen in the background got together and hatched a plan to get everyone on the Earth on the same page. And that kind of fell through. It's a great episode, though. I mean, it's got Robert Culp in it, and if you haven't seen Architects of Fear from the original Outer Limits, watch it. It's just awesome. It's my favorite episode, anyway. And we've got number 27. From dated March 1964, covered by Albert Nuetzel, and of course that's Seventh Voyage of Sinbad Cyclops there. That one's a very low grade. It's got a piece missing from the corner there. I remember I got a good deal on a couple of these as fillers, and I just never got around to worrying about upgrading them. I'm not really interested in upgrading them. Here's number 28. Dated May 1964. Cover is uncredited, but that's Lugosi. You know, it looks like a wolf man. It's Lugosi as the Sayer of the Law from Island of Lost Souls. And number 29 from July 1964. That's uncredited as well. It's, of course, the cover is from the Flesh Eaters, which is really pretty good. I like the Flesh Eaters from the 60s. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And number 30, dated September 1964, cover by Russ Jones. And of course, we've got the Bela Dracula there. And that will do it for my video on the first 30 issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland, as well as the After Hours #4 that is kind of a catalyst for all of this. So, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.